thing as being a rat. If this motherfucker raped me or molested me, ain't no such thing as being a rat. If this motherfucker Bambata, who you say is out there molesting hundreds of babies, hundreds of kids, and then when the police come to me and say, did this man do it or was he there? And I say, no, you know what? I'm not a rat. Brother, something ain't right about that. I mean, what the fuck? This is not being a rat, Poppy. You are putting away a predator. You are putting away a molester. You are putting away a rapist. That's what you're doing, just like Khalil Amani did when he went up against Yahweh ben Yahweh. I don't see Khalil Amani as a rat. I don't see him as that. I see him as a goddamn superhero, as a savior for our children. Because he went out there and did the thing that a lot of people are afraid to do, put his life on the line. So that's why I'm asking you, why would you consider yourself a rat? I would say you would be a hero to be a rat. But see, here's the thing, brother. Here's the thing, brother. There's no such thing as being a rat. If this motherfucker raped me or molested me, ain't no such thing as being a rat. If this motherfucker Bambata, who you say is out there molesting hundreds of babies, hundreds of kids, and then when the police come to me and say, did this man do it or was he there? And I say, no, you know what? I'm not a rat. Brother, something ain't right about that. I mean, what the fuck? This is not being a rat, Poppy. You are putting away a predator. You are putting away a molester. You are putting away a rapist. That's what you're doing, just like Khalil Amani did when he went up against Yahweh ben Yahweh. I don't see Khalil Amani as a rat. I don't see him as that. I see him as a goddamn superhero, as a savior for our children. Because he went out there and did the thing that a lot of people are afraid to do, put his life on the line. So that's why I'm asking you, why would you consider yourself a rat? I would say you would be a hero to
Hey everybody, what's good? It is Professor Khalil Amani, and this is Khalil Amani's World 100. Welcome. Oh, this is going to be an exciting series we about to drop on you. I said I'd wait till I get about 1,000 subscribers, but I'm going to give you a sneak preview with this series about my life. That's right. We're not going to do all the whole Yahweh cult and government informant stuff, but witness protection. But we're gonna hone in on a couple years because I feel like giving it to you like only I can. Shout out to my brother Sadnetter for recognizing what I did back in the 80s. In dealing with the Yahweh cult and going to the F.B.I. and becoming a government informant, he called it superhero work. Khalil Amani is a superhero. So maybe now you might understand why Sadnetter is eternally my brother. I'm never going to shit on him or go against him because he said that at a very unpopular time on the Black Conscious Community channel. Respect to Sadnetter. But I want to do a series. This is going to take about 3 or 4 videos. Let me start out by saying a day before this video that you're hearing right now, I actually did an 1.5-hour video about what I'm talking about. I uploaded it late at night, about midnight. And I figured when I got up the next day, I'd see it posted to YouTube. But when I went to bed as it uploaded, it was a great video. Don't get it twisted. It was fire. But I felt a kind of uneasiness about some of the stuff I was talking about. And I said something in that video that I revealed something in that video that I probably didn't have to reveal. Oh, it wasn't going to hurt me. I mean, but when I went to bed as the video uploaded, I said, my enemies might take that and try to do something with it. Not that I cared, because it was the truth. It was the absolute truth. But I went to bed a little uneasy. Yes, I did. A little uneasy about what I had said. But I said, whatever. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't earth-shattering. It wasn't to hurt my reputation. It was just something that I said that I probably could have left out. And so it weighed on me to show how God works, how the universe works. I woke up this morning, the next morning after uploading, and realized that the video did not upload. It was still in the process. We're talking about 7 hours later. About 7 hours later, it was still talking about its processing. And that was my clue and my cue to stop the upload and to delete the video. And after I deleted the video, I just deleted it from my camera so that I would not get tempted to repost it. I'm just saying, it wasn't earth-shaking. It wasn't going to damage me. I just felt weird about what I was saying, and I thought that, I could have left that out. But see how the universe works? That's never happened before, where I've uploaded a video and went to bed and woke up and the video was still uploading. That was a sign from God, from the devil, from the universe, from whomever. Khalil, take that shit down. Not only that, I realized, even though it was an hour and a half, and I treated the subject wonderfully, that this is a series. Why are you trying to jam it all into an hour and a half? This is a series. What you got to say is series worthy. And so I'm going to do about 1 hour. I got my clock set. I'm not going to go over an hour. But I want to talk to you all in great detail and in great length at the point where I left the Yahweh cult. Again, I'm going to come back and revisit this when I get 1,000 subscribers. I'm going to start from 1980 and go all the way through. But I want to start in 1985, the year that I left the Yahweh cults. That's right. And this is the introduction. So I want you to pay attention, and we on the right track. We're going to really deal with this. This is going to be exciting, y'all. It's going to be revelatory. I'm going to share my world with you. That's what I do. Share my world. There's been some scuttlebutt. There's been some lying going on. There's been some bastardization of my cult story. And I'm not here to correct it, but I'm here to share with those of you that subscribe and follow Khalil Amani's world. I am not a liar. I tell the truth. So what we're going to talk about is when I left. I was in the Yahweh cult in Miami, Florida. The Yahweh cult is a Hebrew Israelite religion. From 1980, at the tender age of 20 years old, until 1985, when I was just about to turn 25 years old, is when I left the cult. I'm not going to talk about what happened in the cult in this series. I'm going to deal with my connection to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, aka the F.B.I. That's right. Not to set the record straight, but to share my tumultuous life. Oh, yeah. And so, let's get it. 1985. About April of 1985. A few days before my birthday. My birthday is April the 23rd. And I left the cult about 2 weeks before my birthday. That's right. About 2 weeks. I went to stay with my father because I had nowhere to stay. I said, after leaving the cult in 1985, I reached out to my father for a place to stay. And he said, yes, you're my son. You can come and stay with me. This picture that you're looking at right here is an actual picture from the year 1985. I'm about a month out of the cult. I'm sitting by a pool, and that's what I did. For the first few weeks, I went and got a jerry curl. I got my hair done, turned into a straight pretty boy. People automatically began to call me Prince. My family, cousins, they said I looked like Prince. Some said I looked like Morris Day. But looking like Prince or Morris Day was not a bad thing, because I thought that Prince and Morris Day were quite handsome fellows. So to be mentioned, to look like those fellas, I guess I was a pretty boy. As you can tell, I was a pretty boy. But in 1985, when I got out of the Yahweh cult, my mind was messed up. As most people who leave cults, their minds are messed up. The person that leaves a cult, they really should see a therapist, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist. They really should. To talk through and work through the things that they once believed, perhaps things that they saw that were bad. Just work through it. But as many of you all know, in the Black community, mental health is not a high priority. Mental health is actually frowned upon in the Black community. Saying that you need to go see a therapist or a shrink or a psychologist or psychiatrist in the Black community, that's tantamount to being cuckoo crazy. Things have changed. Oh, it's a lot better in 2024. But in 1985, that was kind of the stereotype. Not to mention, for me, I had no medical insurance, no dental insurance, no life insurance. I had no job, 5 years of not working. And so I used to go and sit in this chair by the pool and just think about my life. Yeah, I got enough money. I don't know I don't remember where I got the money from, but I got the money to go to the beauty shop and let them give me one of those, what they call it, jerry curls. Because I had 5 years of afro hair growth on my head. But I wasn't walking around in 85 with the afro. Afros were from the 70s. And so I'd sit in this chair, maybe somewhat depressed, feeling lonely, feeling abandoned and feeling like I abandoned my family, my wife, and my two beautiful children that I had to leave down in the Yahweh cults. For when I left the Yahweh cult in 1985, I was very much in love with my wife and, of course, my children. And I just wanted to run away with my family, me and my wife and my two beautiful children. I just wanted to run away and start a new life. Yes, I did. But my wife, like myself, we both were brainwashed. I had had my revelation. She had not. I had had an aha moment. My wife had not. I had had a revelation and an epiphany. I realized that I was in a religious cult. I realized that I was nothing good was going to happen, be living in this cult. So in 1985, April, even before that, but it took about 8 months for me to actually go, I'm out of here. It took a little bit. I said it took a little bit. But I had that moment. I had my revelation. I had my aha moment. I had my epiphany. And I understood full well that my wife was not ready to come with me. And so after walking up to my wife and telling her that I'm leaving, I left. If you understand religious cults, you know that you ain't just going to regulate and grab people and snatch them up and take them out of there, especially children. For the Yahweh cult, for me to have done that, like snatch my children or even my wife and say, come on, we're leaving, that would have been my death. I would have died where I stood. So I understood that. And so it was my time to go, and I left, and I went to stay with my father. And so here I sit at my father's condominium in Miami, Florida, by the pool. And even though I didn't have a therapist, even though I didn't have a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I had that pool. And that pool was my friend. That pool was my therapist. I used to take daily swims and sit there and allow the sun to bake me. And while I sat in this chair, I thought about my life. I shed tears in this chair. I thought about what I had missed out on for 5 years being away from the land of the living. I thought about my beautiful children and how much they were going to miss me and how much I definitely missed them. I thought about my beautiful wife, not knowing, get this, in 1985, when I left, I had no clue that my wife was sleeping with Yahweh ben Yahweh, the cult leader. I'm giving you all context because a lot of you all, not a lot of you all, some people, a very few amount of you all, you talk crazy about the fact that I didn't beat up Yahweh ben Yahweh or go down there and shoot the man or curse him out or confront him about my wife. Well, I'm telling you, when I left the cult, I had no idea that my wife was sleeping with, having sex with fucking the cult leader. That would come along later on, I'd find out. You got it? Everything is about context and the journey. It's about the journey. And so, living at my father's house, his apartment, his condominium, contemplating on getting a job so I can buy a car, and getting out of my father's house, because me and my father, we didn't have the best relationship. It was okay, but it wasn't good. I felt like I walked on pins and needles and eggshells in his condominium. We had a cordial relationship. My father never sat me down and said, "Are you all right? Are you okay, Lloyd?" My father never inquired as to what went on in the cult. And my father never asked me why I left. Again, showing that my father was a hands-off type of parent. Even though I was 25, he didn't want to get in my business. He didn't care to have a discussion with me. He didn't care to sit across from me on the couch and just make sure that his son was okay. But he did allow me to come and stay until I got on my feet. Broke, alone, and lonely. During this period, I had night sweats, night terrors, and nightmares. Because for all intents and purposes, even though I recognized after 5 years that I was in a religious cult, you don't just shake off and stop believing in some of the rhetoric and lies that have been told to you. That's a process. I still believe that Yahweh was God. I had read that in books and encyclopedias and dictionaries. That's a true fact. Yahweh is the name of God. But I thought this God, because I left the sanctuary of heaven on earth, the Yahweh compound, I thought that this God was going to strike me dead or I would not see the morning sunrise. I really did. Even though I left, I thought that I was not going to see the sunrise. Yeah. I remember waking up the very next morning after leaving the cult, and the sun still shone and the birds still chirped. I said, my God, because I was under the impression that to leave Yahweh ben Yahweh's presence, to come from under his protection, was immediate death and destruction. But here I was on day one after leaving the Yahweh group, and I looked at myself and I was fine. I didn't have any strange diseases. Didn't have leprosy, no plagues. Everything was beautiful. And so on day one of leaving the Yahwehs and going to my father's house, because the night that I left the Yahwehs, I slept in an abandoned car. And the next morning, I called my brother. He came to get me, and he took me to my father's house because he too was living with our father. But one of the first things I did after 5 years of strict dietary laws and quick showers and not a lot of privacy, one of the first things I did was I took me a shower that must have lasted 45 minutes. I stayed in that shower until my fingertips and my toes were wrinkled. I just basked in the hot water and the beautiful shampoo and soap that wasn't the bullshit soap that we use down there. Some crazy stuff that had no scent. I lathered up with whatever it was. It could have been Dial or Irish Spring, who knows. But I stayed in that shower about 45 minutes. I was beyond clean. I guess it was my way of ritualistically shedding my past, getting rid of, washing off any sign of Yahweh ben Yahweh and his bullshit Hebrew Israelite cult. So I took a long, hot shower. The next thing I did was, being hungry, went in the kitchen and I pulled out eggs and bacon, pork, swine, something I hadn't eaten in 5 years. I put out eggs and bacon and grits and pancakes, milk and orange juice, and I got the Chef Boyardee. You hear me? My dad and brother, they were going to work. I went in there and made me scrambled eggs with cheese, cheesy grits, a couple pieces of toast with butter all over it, bacon, a glass of milk here, and a glass of orange juice with ice cold ice cubes in it. And I sat down, and after 5 years of no breakfasts, I turned on Good Morning America, Morning News, or whatever, and I sat there and watched TV, and I ate about 3 or 4 strips of bacon. I had about 2 or 3 eggs, and I ate and I ate. Now understand that when I left the cult, like this picture you're looking at, in this picture, I was about 119 pounds. Facts. Undernourished, 25 years old, I'm 5'7" and 119 pounds, maybe 115. Skin and bones. Because in Yahweh, in the cult, we ate 1 meal a day at about 4 o'clock every day. And we had the same meal every day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month, 365 days a year, not counting any particular feasts we might have had. We ate beans, rice, bread, and water. That was my basic diet for 5 years. Oh, you want to lose weight? Try the beans and rice diet. You will lose weight. So after 5 years of eating nothing but beans and rice and bread and water, that morning I went to my father's scrambled eggs, cheese, grits with butter and cheese, 3 or 4 strips of bacon, 2 things of toast, buttery toast, and syrup on the side with milk and orange juice. Oh, that bacon tasted and smelled delicious. Fuck all that Leviticus 11, don't eat swine, don't eat the cloven hoof. I broke that law on day 1. I dove headfirst into pork, into swine. My God, was that bacon good. Crispy. goodness. And after a shower and a wonderful breakfast, found some clothes to put on, and I started going out to the pool. Just to get out the house. Unemployed, no job, nowhere to be, and nowhere to go. And no car to take me there. But I'm going to get it together. I was going to get it together. I had no driver's license. I had no ID. I had no identification. Yeah. But I used to sit in this chair in 1985, and this was the beginning of me plotting and planning on what I'm going to do with my life. I said this was the beginning of me plotting and planning to make a full recovery and a comeback. What a comeback I made. Of course, top priority was working on getting my 2 children out of the cult. Oh, I wanted my wife. And again, in 1985, when I left the cult, I was unaware that she was opening her legs for the cult leader. Do y'all understand that? We're talking about context and the way shit happened. But my first priority was, I gotta get a job. I gotta do something. I gotta get some greenbacks. I gotta get some ducats, some snaps, some Benjamins. I gotta get to the cheddar, the moolah, the money. And I wasn't picky about what I was gonna do. I just needed a job. 25 years old, high school graduate, yet I was unskilled. I didn't have no skills, but I could work at a warehouse, a restaurant, maybe drive a truck. I'll figure out something. But I wasn't picky. All I know is I needed a job, and I needed a job fast, because I knew that my time with my father wasn't going to be long. He didn't particularly like me, and I didn't particularly like him, although he loved me and I loved him. I knew I had to get up out of there expeditiously. He didn't give me no set time. And so, sitting at the pool is what I did during the day. But something happened one day as I sat by the pool. I'm going to read it from my book in a minute. But something crazy happened. Let me tell you the story first. I'm sitting at the pool, minding my business, and a brother walks up to me. I don't know him from the man on the moon, but the brother knew me. The brother said, "Lloyd, ain't you Lloyd? Lloyd from Carroll City High?" I said, "Yeah, that's me." "You don't remember me?" I said, "No, I don't. My name is Lloyd too." "Oh, what a coincidence." "Oh, okay." So I asked, "Yeah, I went to Carroll City too. I came out a year after you. I was on the football team," he explained. And I'm looking at him, and I knew I was a very popular kid, and I knew most of the kids in school. I did not remember his face. His name was Lloyd, and my name was Lloyd. That's something I probably would have remembered, but I didn't. But anyway, he was a nice young man, nice fellow. And he said, "You stay here?" Yeah. I told him I was staying in the condo with my dad. He said, "Well, I'm in condo number, we'll just say 350. Won't you come through this evening?" "Really?" Yeah, come through and holler at me. I said, okay. That was mighty nice of him. And so he went about his way, and I sat there at the pool, and I'm thinking, damn, I don't know that guy. His name is Lloyd, like mine. I don't know him. But maybe later, I didn't have no friends at this time. I had no friends. But maybe later I'll go by and see Lloyd. Lloyd and Lloyd. What could go wrong? And we went to the same high school. Yeah. And so later that evening, I said, I'm going to go by and check on Lloyd. He invited me to come through this evening. Let's go see what's happening. Now, understand, people, I'm green as fuck. I have been basically locked up. You might as well say for 5 years, I was in prison, being a part of the Yahweh Ben Yahweh Hebrew Israelite cult. Though they keep a tight rein on your ass. You ain't got no me time. You ain't got no alone time. You ain't got no, personal space. Oh, I didn't say this, but I'll say it now. I wasn't just a regular member of the Yahweh cult. I was a full-time live-in worker for the Yahweh cult. In other words, myself, my wife, and my children, we depended on the Yahweh cult to feed us, to clothe us, and to shelter us. You understand? And we didn't get a salary. We worked, as they say in litigious talk, pro bono. As jurisprudence talk goes, we worked pro bono. In other words, we worked free. Free charity. Donation. Our lives was charity. Our lives were a donation. 5 years. No money. And so this evening, I go over to this guy named Lloyd, who has the same name as me, but his nickname is Cheap. Cheap. Like cheapskate. His name was Cheap. I don't know why they called him Cheap, but he was very nice and friendly to me and wanted me to come through. So this particular evening, I go to his condominium. I walk in the condominium. It's loud music going on, rap music. It's just music going on. And he opens the door. Hey, come on in, man. Hey, what's up? So I come on in and I make a beeline to the couch. I'm not going to, be walking all through his, his living space. So I follow him into the living room and I cop a squat. I cop a squat on the couch. Yeah. I cop a squat on the couch. He goes into the dining room, kitchen area. I don't know what he's doing back there. He doesn't tell me to follow him, so I don't follow. I stay out there. And he's back there. He's talking to me, shouting over the music, and I really can't hear what he's saying. I said the brother Lloyd, aka Cheap, is trying to have a conversation with me over the loud rap music that's playing. He's in the kitchen and I'm in the living room. So I said, enough of this. Let me just go where he's at, so I don't have to strain my ears to hear what the fuck he's saying. And so I walk into the kitchen and I look on the cabinets on the counter, and there's this big old thing of what I thought was flour, the kind of flour you use to bake a cake, bake cookies, muffins, and biscuits. That kind of flour. I said, what's he making with all that goddamn flour there? It's just me and him. What's he making? a cake? So I look at him and I asked him, what you making? What you about to bake, my nigga? He looks at me with the most weird, twisted face like, nigga, is you stupid or is you dumb? And I look at him like, why are you looking at me like that? You got flour. I'm assuming you're going to bake a cake or something. He said, what you say? I said, you're going to bake a cake or something? That's flour, isn't it? He said, nigga, this is not flour. I said, well, what is it? I'm green. I've been in a cult for 5 years, locked the fuck away from the world. He said, it's not flour, my nigga. It's yayo. It's cocaine. What? Now, I knew what cocaine was. I knew it was an illegal drug. But god damn, it was a lot of it. Now that I understand what cocaine is and how it looks. Yeah. Had to take a little intermission there. And so I'm in my high school friend, Lloyd, aka Cheap. I'm in his condominium. And he's showing me all of this cocaine. If I had to put a weight on it, it was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 kilograms. A kilogram is 2.2 pounds. And there was clearly over 10 pounds of yayo, of cocaine spread out. There was some over here. There was some over there. It was little mountains of it. It's like, my God. But I was so green. I was so new. I was so naive that I didn't feel no compulsion to get up and run out of his condominium or to go, oh my God, I'm out of here. This is illegal. I didn't think none of that. I was just shocked that I'm looking at probably 8, 9, 10 kilograms of cocaine on this man's counter. But that wasn't it. We ended up walking into the dining room, and on the table, I swear for God, there was so much money. There was probably $500,000 on that man's table. I saw 20s, I saw 50s, I saw 100s. Stacked up, I saw, wrapped up, rubber band knotted up 20s, rubber band knotted up 50s, rubber band knotted up $100 bills. Lots and lots and lots. Well over $300,000 or $400,000. It was a lot of money. My goodness. But being green, I didn't really put 2 and 2 together. But my eyes lit up. Being fresh out of Yahweh and broke as a joke and having no job. I saw all that money. If he was a little bit smaller than me, I might have knocked him over the head and took some of it. No, I'm just joking. But what I come to find out is this guy was testing me to see, I didn't know at the time, because you don't invite nobody into your house and show them, 8, 9, 10 kilos of cocaine and $500,000. There's got to be a motive. There's got to be an ulterior motive. And indeed, and in fact, my high school classmate, Lloyd, aka Cheap, he had an ulterior motive. Of course, at the time when I saw this coke and saw this hundreds of thousands of dollars, I didn't know I was being tested. I didn't know he was setting me up for something. I didn't know he was testing me. I just thought he was over friendly. I mean, after all, we went to the same high school After all, we had the same name. After all, we lived in the same condominium. But come to find out, he was testing me to see, what to do. Come to find out, this young man, Lloyd, aka Cheap, my high school friend, he was looking for a runner. He was looking for a drug mule. He was looking for somebody to transport cocaine for him. Did he ask me? Did he say, I want you to be a drug mule? No. Did he say, I want you to be a courier, a runner? No. He just told me and let me see how much money can be made dealing cocaine. My goodness. He laughed at me. He was asking me, like, why you don't know this stuff? I would go on to explain briefly that, I was in the Yahweh cults. He was aware of what it was, and he knew I was green as fuck. And somewhere in that conversation, he asked me would I like to make some money. I said, hell yeah. I'm fresh out of a religious cult. I'm broke as a joke. I was po. Hell yeah, I like to make some money. What I gotta do? And so this young man, Cheap, aka Lloyd, explained to me that he would pay me $2,000, $2,500 to take a few packages up to Washington, D.C. for him. I didn't have to go in the street and sell it hand to hand. All I had to do was get on the airplane, fly to D.C. He said, I give you money for your rent-a-car. I'll book your hotel reservation. All you got to do is get your rent-a-car, go to the hotel, and wait for a knock on the door. A man named so-and-so will come, give him the packages. That's all you got to do. You don't have to take no money from him. Just give him the packages. Oh, I ain't got to collect no money. I ain't got to stand on the street corner. I just got to fly it to D.C., go to my hotel room and wait for a knock on the door. Give him the product and deuces. No money exchange. I could do that. And you going to give me $2,000, $2,500? I'm with it. So now what I want to do, I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to go to my book and I'm going to read to you that particular exchange of how my first encounter with drugs came about. Okay? Let's go to it. And so in my book, which is entitled My Id, Ignorant and Dysfunctional, Life in the Yahweh Cult and the Witness Protection Program. It's a memoir and it's by yours truly, Khalil Amani. Again, the name of my book is called My Id. I know most of you don't know what an id is. An id is a psychological term coined by the late, great Sigmund Freud. He talked about the three parts of your brain. One was the id, one was the ego, and the other part was the superego. Well, what is the id according to Sigmund Freud? The id is the bad part of your brain. The id is like, the devil with the pitchfork sitting on one shoulder and the angel sitting on the other. And so according to the psychologist Sigmund Freud, he believed that the brain comprised an ego, a superego, and something called an id. The id is the nasty, violent, sinful nature of a person's brain, and the superego is the super righteous part of the brain, and the ego is the balance, the ma'at. It is the It is the balance. It is the compromise. It is the brain's ability to compromise between super righteousness, the super ego, and super sinfulness, the id. And so I named my book My Id because I'm talking about some of the nastiness that I was exposed to and that I was involved in. My id. Ignorant and dysfunctional life in the Yahweh cult and the Witness Protection Program. And it was published in 2007. Okay. So let's go to that chapter where I talk about this whole drugs and meeting this guy. See, there's another picture. There's another picture. Just like the picture right here. This is another angle. That's my father's condominium. See what it says right there? A month after leaving the cult, finding solace by the pool. You understand? Do you understand? We giving receipts, and I'm walking you through this because I'm tired of the Mickey Mouse conversation about my life. And so I'm going to enjoy this. This is 1985. That's a young Khalil Amani. A month after. That's a different day. Because there I have on a white plain tank top shirt. And here I got on a tank top with it says Miami. You can't really see it, but it says Miami right there. So these are different days. Okay? And so let me read to you how I began to mess with the drugs. And so I have a chapter in my book. It's called Players and Drugs. Yeah. I'm going to get right to it. I'll just read a little bit at the beginning. It says, a month later, I'm 25. I'm still having daily sessions with my therapist, the pool. I'm still dealing with the ghost of Yahweh, but every day I feel the fetters. I feel the fetters loosening their grip on my mind. Okay, I'll stop there and we'll start here. A few days later, I'm talking to my therapist, the pool. When a brother approaches me, he says, "Don't I know you?" "No." "What school did you go to?" "Carroll City." "Carroll City?" "Yep. I went to Carroll City too." "When did you graduate?" "78. I came out in 79, he said. Then he asked me my name. "Lloyd." "Lloyd?" "Yeah, I remember you from the band." "Well, isn't that a coincidence? Same school." As we began to talk, I remembered him, and he damn sure remembered me. He lived in the same condos as my father. He gave me his number and invited me over. I told him I'd come by a little later and holler at him. Sorry, y'all, I'm reading through the lens of my phone. It's a little bit tough. Work with me. Later that evening, I went to see him. He had a smile on his face when he saw me. We sit down and talk about high school a little. I tell very little about where I just came from. He's in the kitchen talking to me in the living room. The music is a little loud. I get up and go in the kitchen where he is. He's weighing something. There's flour, I think, spread all over the counter. I ask him what is he going to bake. He looks at me stupid like. "What?" he says. I'm thinking he's going to bake cookies or something. Now he's startled, looking at me like I'm a damn fool. He says, "You don't know what this is?" "No." I think it's flour, but it's a little yellow, I say very ignorantly. No, that's cocaine, raw dog, yayo. Oh, I coo in astonishment. I've never seen cocaine. I've never seen this much cocaine for sure. There must have been the equivalent of a 5-pound bag of sugar on that counter. He said something about a few kilos or something. I didn't know anything about cocaine. Kilos or any kind of drug. That was never my thing. I'd never smoked cigarettes or reefer. I didn't drink or get high in any fashion. After being in Yahweh for 5 years, I was starting to see just how naive and ignorant I was about what was going on. I didn't even feel the need to leave his apartment when he told me what it was. I didn't understand just how serious that shit was. I didn't know also that he was testing me. He was looking for a runner, someone who ran coke around the country for him, and I was a prime candidate. A young, preppy looking, naive kid. I surely needed the money. He didn't ask me right away. He just showed me the power that cocaine had and the money to be made from it. Once I came over to his place, and I swear there must have been $500,000 on his table just sitting there stacked up. I knew then that I was going to get paid. My first job for him, fly a couple. I said, my first job for him, fly a couple of kilos to DC. No sweat, I thought. How much did I get paid? $2,500. For me, I'd never had that kind of money in one lump sum. I didn't know that the price of a kilo of pure cocaine was going for $18,000. And then I didn't know about stomping on it, cutting it, or putting a 1 or 2 on it. That means taking mannitol or baking soda and measuring the same amount of it to the amount of cocaine and mixing it with the coke, making 1 kilo into 2 kilos, doubling your profit. Later, I met brothers who were stepping on their shit 3 times. My friend Cheap, aka Lloyd, put me in business. He had a hotel and a rental car waiting for me at National in DC. All I had to do was wait for someone to pick it up. I didn't have to collect any money. And that, my friends, would be the beginning of a very, very short period of desperation in my life. A period that only lasted about 3 months. That's right. My so-called being a drug mule, a runner, a drug dealer, it was a short-lived life. Not because I got into any trouble with law enforcement. No. So I want you to come back for part 2, and we will get into the drug thing a little more, and you're going to see how I stopped it and what was the reason behind me stopping the drug dealing and the drug muling. That's right. This is Khalil Amani's true narrative. My life is a literal open book. I've written about these things. I leave nothing out. I don't hide anything. I don't forget to mention something, a big event like, maybe I got caught selling drugs. That never happened. And the main reason I never got caught selling drugs, the main reason is because I didn't do it long enough to get on anybody's radar. I just didn't. When you've got smoke-free satisfaction. I know there's a belief, and I know there's one or two people that think otherwise, but I always say like this. Okay, I write a book, I go on a national TV show. I tell you all that I was a government informant. I tell you all I was in the witness protection. I tell you all of these very intimate things. I tell you that my wife was having sex with another man. I tell you all of these very intimate things. But for some reason, there's one or two people, after telling you all of these very intimate things about my life, things that people would take to their grave. Do you know how many people are in witness protection that you will never, ever know? They not writing no books. They not doing no TV interviews. They taking that shit to their graves. They're not telling their best friends, oh, by the way, I used to be so-and-so. As a matter of fact, dare I say, of the 10,000 or so people who have been in the witness protection program, I challenge you to Google that and see how many books you find about people who tell their witness protection stories and their government informant stories. Oh, you could count them on one hand. You can count them on one hand, maybe a couple fingers. I said there have been over 10,000 people who were part of the witness protection program. Now go Google books on people in the witness protection program. You might find a few books about people who write about what the witness protection program is all about, even though they themselves have never been in the witness protection program. But go and see how many books you can find on people who openly admit and confess that they were a part of WITSEC. My point is, it's a rare, rare thing. So for anybody to believe that I'm omitting certain things, like getting caught with drugs, that's a false narrative. Because if it happened, I would just write about it and tell you all I became a government informant after getting caught with drugs and I needed a way out. That's a convenient lie told by my enemies. But we're going to walk through this thing and I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to show you receipts and read from my book about my life. But me selling drugs was out of desperation, ignorance. It was ignorant to do such a thing. But desperate times call for desperate measures. And I was a desperate man who needed fast money. Not only fast money, but I needed long money. I had to get on my feet. I needed to get a place to stay. I needed a car. I needed to work on getting my children out of the cult. Now, mind you, I did go back to work. During this same period, well, right after this. And so for about 3 months, I would put kilos of cocaine around my waist. Remember, when I got out of the Yahwehs, I was about 118 pounds, soaking wet. And I looked like I was 16. I looked like I was a college kid. I wasn't the usual suspect. I didn't have a lot of flashy jewelry. I mean, I would get it later, but I didn't walk around looking like a drug dealer. I looked like a college kid going home for spring vacation and shit. I wore my fraternity jacket. You all have seen, some of you have seen my fraternity jacket. I wore my fraternity jacket, and I would put 5 or 6 or 7 kilos of cocaine in my waistband. That's right. Back in 1985, there wasn't a bunch of, security, all that crazy security that came after 9/11, September 11th, 2001, the World Trade Center, the terrorist attacks on America. That's when the airports got seriously secure. But back in 1985, I could walk around with 5 or 6 or 7 kilos of cocaine neatly tucked in my waistband and walk right through security. Back in those days, there wasn't security where they're checking you for guns and knives and contraband. It was really, really loose. Every now and then you might see a policeman with a sniffing dog. I saw that. But my stupid ass was so stupid back in those days that I bought me a scale. I bought me the drug dealer's scale of choice. It was called the Ohas Triple Beam. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. There it is. I said I bought one of these. It's called the Ohas Triple Beam Scale. This was the drug dealer's scale of choice. But what I was trying to say was I was so stupid that I would put this in the actual box that it came in. It came in the box, and on the box it said Ohas Triple Beam Scale. And I would walk through the airport with cocaine in my waist, and I would walk through the airport with the Triple Beam Ohas Scale in its box. A dead giveaway that this person is engaging in illegal narcotics. That's how green and dumb I was. I forgot why I needed a scale. It's been so long. But I bought me an Ohas Triple Beam Scale and walked through Miami International Airport with cocaine around my waist and a scale box with the goddamn name and everything on the box and got on the plane. That's how lax it was. But yes, I was stupid and ignorant and desperate. Somebody, God watches babies and fools, because I was a fool. But I was a drug mule, a drug runner for about 3 months. In 3 months, I got up enough money. I made enough runs that I had over $10,000 at my disposal. $10,000 in 1985 is a lot of fucking money. Oh yeah. So come back for part 2 and walk with me in this journey of my life after the cult. We are starting in the year 1985. 25 years old, y'all. We're going to walk through this thing and get real detailed as I go from drug dealer, drug mule, to government informant for the FBI. We'll see you shortly. Take care.